The world you're looking at right now is waiting on you to decide what it is. That screen, that room, the life you've half built, and the one you keep promising yourself you'll start. All of it sits in a blurry, undecided hum until something locks it into place, and the thing doing the locking is closer than your own skin. By the end of this, you'll see why the most powerful tool you own has been hiding inside the word I. Start with the strangest result physics ever stumbled into. Send a single particle toward a barrier with 2 slits in it and let it travel undisturbed. It goes through both. It spreads out like a wave, interfering with itself, landing in a striped pattern that only makes sense if one tiny thing was somehow everywhere at once. So you decide to catch it in the act. You place a detector at the slits to see which one it really uses. The pattern collapses. The particle picks a side. The wave of pure possibility snaps into a single ordinary dot, as if it knew it was being watched. Physicists have run versions of this experiment for a century, and the result holds. Before measurement, a system exists as a spread of possibilities, described by a wave of probabilities that physicists call the wave function. Picture a coin spinning so fast it's both faces and neither, a haze of could be. Measurement is the moment the spinning stops. One face, one world. The math that describes the spin says nothing about when or why it stops. That gap has a name, the measurement problem, and it's the crack in reality that the rest of this is built on. Here's what makes it bite. The equations are flawless at describing the haze of possibilities. They predict the odds with brutal precision. Yet they contain no instruction for the snap, no line of code that says now become real, now pick one. The particle should just keep spreading forever, a ghost of every option it never took. So why does the world you wake up to look solid? Why does the coin always land? The honest answer the founders kept circling back to disturbed them. The system stays a haze until it's observed, then it resolves. The act of looking is woven into the result. Some of the sharpest minds who built this physics said it plainly. The line between the watcher and the watched cannot be cleanly drawn. Pull the thread on what counts as an observer, and you end up somewhere that materialism has no map for. Where does the chain of measuring devices actually end? Follow it. Your detector is made of atoms, themselves a haze. To read the detector, you need an instrument, also a haze. To read that instrument, another. Each device just inherits the blur and passes it along. A hall of mirrors with no last mirror. The spinning never stops on its own anywhere in that chain. Something outside the chain has to register the result. The one place the regress finally lands is the moment a result enters an aware mind. Awareness is where could be becomes is. Sit with that for a second because it flips the whole story you were handed. You were taught that consciousness is a late guest. Dead matter banged around for billions of years, cooled into rocks, brewed into cells, and eventually, by accident, a brain woke up and started taking notes. Mind is a side effect of meat. The trouble is, the physics keeps pointing the other way. The definite solid world only shows up in the presence of an observer, and the frequency that observer holds changes what collapses. You can feel a small version yourself. Retune any song to 432 Hz in a tune, link in the description, and your nervous system drops into coherence before the second chorus hits. Then pull the headphones off, and the old static floods back. So which one is the foundation, and which one is the guest? Turn it the right way up. Consciousness is the thing in which a universe gets decided. Matter is what experience looks like once it's been observed into a particular shape. You're the awareness that the chemicals were dreamed inside of, the place where the haze finally lands. I know how that sounds. Like a clever trick of words you can't spend, can't lift, can't use on a Tuesday when your project's stalled and your bank balance is laughing at you. So let's make it concrete. Because this is where it stops being philosophy and starts being leverage. Watch what your own attention does to your own life. 2 people walk into the same gym, the same empty city, the same skill that takes 2 years to get good at. One sees a wall, one sees a door. They're standing in front of an identical set of facts, the same haze of raw possibility. Their attention is the detector. It collapses that haze into a definite reality. They then have to live inside. One walks out having confirmed the wall was real. One walks out having built the door. Same slits, different observer, different world. This is the part nobody's selling you manifestation wants you to hear, because it's the hard part. Being the observer demands everything from you. A blurry, half-hearted glance collapses a blurry, half-hearted result. The world you keep getting is an honest readout of the state you keep observing from. Scatter your attention across 10 tabs, 20 notifications, 100 maybes, and reality stays a smear. It can't lock into something sharp, because you never held a sharp state long enough to measure it into being. So the discipline isn't hustle. It's the brutal, unglamorous work of holding one definite assumption steady while the haze screams at you to look away. This is what the old teachers meant by living in the end, stripped of the mystical fog. They were describing a measurement. You decide the result first. You assume the project's shipped, the body's built, the freedom's already yours, and you observe from inside that finished state. Hold it as the lens you actually look through all day when it's boring and when it's hard. The wave function of your life is enormous. Every version of you is in there, spinning. The one that becomes real is the one you steadily, stubbornly observe. And here's where most people leak all their power. They observe from doubt. They wake up and run the measurement on the version where it fails. They check the bank balance and confirm scarcity. They scroll other people's highlight reels and collapse their own worth into behind. Every one of those is an act of observation, locking a result into place with the same force that could have built the door. You're always measuring something. The question is which state you're measuring from. Think about how a quiet, repeated assumption hardens into a fact you'd swear was always there. You decide you're someone who trains every morning. The first week it's pure haze, a story you're telling that the mirror has yet to agree to. You keep observing from it anyway. You move, eat, sleep like that person. Month 3, the body is caught up. The fog has collapsed into muscle. The assumption became the measurement, became the matter. That's the same mechanism running in your own flesh. So the people who seem to bend reality aren't luckier than you. They've simply learned to be a cleaner instrument. They hold a state without flickering. They keep every passing fear from taking a measurement on their behalf. When the haze gets loud, and it always gets loud right before it resolves, they keep their attention pinned to the result they've already chosen. That steadiness is the entire skill. It's available to you the moment you stop outsourcing your measurements to your moods. There's a reason this lands hardest for people building their own thing. A salaried life hands you a borrowed reality. Someone else collapses the wave function for you. They set the hours, the target, the story of who you're allowed to be, and you just live inside the result they measured. Comfortable in a way. Also a cage. The moment you choose to build your own project, your own body, your own freedom, nobody is standing at the slits making the call. The detector is empty until you step up to it. That's the terror and the gift of working without a boss. You become the observer of record. Every haze in your life is now waiting on your measurement, and yours alone, which means the loudest thing in the room becomes your own mind. On the days the launch flops, and the followers stay flat, and the muscle won't show, the fog comes back screaming that the wall was always real. That's the test. The result hasn't snapped yet. The particle is still in flight. Most people read the unfinished haze as a verdict and collapse failure into stone. The builder reads the same haze and keeps the lens steady, knowing the dot lands where the attention holds. You don't get to skip the loud part. You get to decide what you observe while it's screaming. Let me hand you the practice, because an idea you can't run is just entertainment. Once a day, sit still and choose the single state you want to collapse into reality. 1. Hold it with your full attention, the way that Detector at the slit decides everything. Feel it as already done. Then carry that lens off the cushion and keep it through every hour the day gets hard. When you catch yourself measuring from fear, you stop and you re-aim. That correction, repeated 1,000 times, is how a definite life gets built out of a foggy one. There's a cost here, and I won't soften it. If you're the observer, the blame game is over. The economy? Your parents? The algorithm? The city that's too expensive? The timing that's always wrong? Those are real factors in the haze, but the collapse, the version that hardens into your actual lived day, runs through you. That's a heavier thing to carry than victimhood. It's also the only thing that was ever going to set you free, because a reality you collapse is a reality you can collapse again, differently, tomorrow. Bring it back to that spinning particle, both slits at once, every option alive, waiting on a single act of observation to become one real thing. That particle is your next year. Your unstarted business, the skill you keep almost learning, the body and the mind, and the freedom that exist right now, only as a haze of could be. All of it is undecided. All of it is spinning. And the detector that ends the spin, that turns the cloud of maybes into one solid life you get to stand inside, isn't out there in the lab. It's the awareness reading these words. Aim it like you mean it, and watch what was only possible turn, at last, into what is.